We were featured on Amazon's first page. So Amazon.com first page from incognito for different areas. You see our product like 3 or 4 times. We had a day where we sold $1.2 million.
What is mostly the most common thing that if you can just change one of those components can increase tons of conversions?
It's a difficult question because
So today in the podcast, I'm joined by Klaidas. He's the founder and CEO of Amazon Beast. And Klaidas started selling on Amazon back in 2015 when he took over his family's brand and actually grew it to 7 figures in just 2 years. Pretty incredible stuff. And since then, he's helped brands all over the world grow on Amazon, kind of just like how he did through his agency, Amazon Beast. And some background here, Klaidas also spoke at major Amazon conferences all around the world and even had his work feature in Forbes. Pretty incredible stuff. But what I like most about him is he's someone that actually built and grew the business himself and not just talked about it. So in this episode, we're going to break down Amazon strategy, brand growth, and what it really takes to be a full stack partner. And, Klaidas explains all of that, and he has tons of valuable information and tips that you as a viewer can take away after watching this show. And I just want to thank to Profit Cyclops for making this happen. So if you guys are ready, let's get right into it. All right, Klaidas, thank you for hopping here for the call and with your time here and bringing your expertise. So the goal today is kind of like educate the viewer of exactly like what a full stack service that you bring to the table. But before we get there, I want to, if you can share with us like a quick background of how long you've been doing this, because you're pretty young,
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me here, Lester. It's a pleasure. So I've been in this business or in the Amazon space for the past 10 years. I think a little bit more. Yeah, I'm 27, so I did start relatively young. But I've been running AMZBs or what was before AMZBs, but the agency since 2018. And we're essentially a full stack Amazon account management agency. We manage the P&L, we manage growth, and our full focus is on growing the brand's accounts. Not necessarily just on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that you might try to outsource, but we're essentially a partner that comes in to really push the Amazon marketplace for brands. And a lot of the brands that we work with, they sell in retail, they sell in their own e-commerce stores, and Amazon for them is one of the marketplaces. It's one of the levers that they use to grow their business overall in the real world, as we say.
Oh, that's amazing. It's more above and beyond than like a traditional like agency you would think like for Amazon specific, right? Because a lot of those maybe they just specialize in PPC advertising. So I know you mentioned like full stack. Do you mind kind of just maybe go in a bit of detail like what that actually entails? So
sure,
what could they expect working with you, for example?
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to the things that can be done and the things that we work on. Obviously, advertising is a big part of it, but it's not just the advertising, right? You're looking at the entire funnel. The way we work is we combine all of the aspects of Amazon and strategy into one thing. So obviously, we handle all the technical stuff. We obviously handle, Amazon seller support, brand support, all the connections, all the suspensions, and those things, right? Naturally. But at the same time, I would say one of the bigger strengths that we have is our strategic expertise. So we come in, we are the ones managing the P&L. We're the ones who are monitoring the KPIs. We're the ones who are building media plans for the client's next financial quarter or the next financial year. We're building the entire Amazon strategy, from deal strategy to review strategy to variation strategy to the way their product's positioned, to obviously the visual aspect that is a big part of selling on Amazon, especially in e-commerce, right? Because you can't really touch the product. You're only able to see the products and feel that emotion by reading the listing. So we incorporate various tools to help us essentially adapt our listing to the A9 for the keywords, but at the same time, which currently is one of the bigger areas of growth, is to adapt the listing entirely to the Cosmo algorithm updates, where essentially we're clearly answering all of the questions that need to be answered to the Cosmo AI that is looking at our listing, right, from the visual standpoint, from the picture standpoint, to the copy standpoint itself. So we're sort of trying to tie everything together into one service. And our clients, like they're still the ones doing R&D. They're still the ones managing the logistics and the real physical products. But when it comes to Amazon, we fully take that onto ourselves, and we either incorporate some of our clients' team into the work, because sometimes they have their own customer support reps, and we need to incorporate some different types of systems and SOPs when it comes to managing customer expectations, when it comes to reviews. And at the same time, we also look at their products packaging. We'll look at how that specific packaging fits to Amazon compared to, for example, when they sell in retail. There's sometimes we need to do adjustments. So we look at Amazon channel as a whole. Now, we still do work with private label brands. It's not that often, but we do. And for a lot of those brands, their main goal is to have one agency that handles everything on Amazon. Now, they still find the products, they still deal with manufacturers, they still deal with R&Ds, but we do have quite a few clients that are one-man show or a family business that grew themselves on Amazon to some extent, and they eventually got to the point where they couldn't handle the workload, and they couldn't figure out how to break stagnation. That's when they come to us to essentially take that load off their chest and off their time, so they can go and spend more time with their kids. They could spend more time with their family and their loved ones, where we handle their Amazon business. Now, they're still involved, but they don't have to be involved as much when they don't need to deal with suspension, when they don't need to deal with translations, with listings, with visuals, with advertising, and obviously managing the P&L, which I've repeated multiple times at this point. I can't catch myself, but it's a very, very crucial part, because you have businesses that are mainly focused sometimes on the market share, where, for example, we're selling dog food, right? And as you might imagine, it's a very, very, very big market. And in that sector, it's our second year with the brand that we work with, and we're still not really focusing on profitability, because we're putting more and more dollars and more capital into the growth of the business, right? And we're operating on a ultimately 0% gross margins, right? Our ACOS is high, our TACOS is high. We're spending a significant amount of capital on DSP. We're spending significant amount of capital on the retargeting and all the different types of campaigns to push the subscriber and saves. But then you have businesses where we help them reach a certain stage in their product's life cycle. All right, we get them to the cash cow stage, and sometimes it can be $100,000 a month, but sometimes it could be $3, $4, $5, $10 million a year. And in those cases, a lot of the big numbers usually are very seasonal, actually. So it's either Christmas or either summer. Like we have a lot of great success with seasonal products, but it's more tough, because then you have to plan the demand on a very different level than on dog food, which no matter if it's holiday or it's not a holiday, if Prime Day, but you're still gonna buy your dog dinner, right? So in those cases where the focus is on the profitability, this is where our entire focus is. We still want to maintain a market share. We obviously absolutely track all the funnel metrics. We make sure that our customers in the consideration stage, that our customers in the awareness stage data are not dropping as years goes by, as we focus on profitability. But at the same time, the optimization in the advertising side, the optimization in the stock management, where we try to avoid long-term storage fees, we try to avoid overcharges, right, for more shipments, for the stock overages. So basically, then the focus comes maintaining the status quo, where some clients and some companies, they do want just to maintain the status quo at a specific margin. But there's a very important tipping point where if you are optimizing your advertising and you're optimizing down, right? You're stopping your experiments. If you're essentially looking at just the keyword level, you might be shooting yourself in the foot, because in reality, what ends up happening more often than not is that when you're optimizing down, you are seeing more profit in the short term, but then you start seeing that your consideration stage is going down. You're seeing that your awareness is going down. And if your full focus goes to the lower funnel, what ends up happening is that your top line starts going down. And then you get trapped in the loop where you have to spend significantly more to get back to where you were and to get back that awareness and to get back that consideration audience, that it becomes it becomes a difficult challenge. So even if the client's goal is to focus on profitability, that still has to be very carefully monitored and maintained in order to not over focus on the percentage-wise profitability and forget the dollars, because the dollar is what truly matters. So anyway, it was a little bit of a ramble, but there's just a lot that goes into managing the accounts that is beyond standard virtual assistant, doing A, B, C, and D. It's obviously that is included, right? The things that just, the clicking on the keyboard, that they absolutely are included, and that those are the things that have to be done. But it's essentially, right, we're essentially an agency that is your Amazon growth partner, right?
Yeah.
And we look at ourselves in that view.
Yeah. If I was going to describe like everything you say, it's like it's a true partner. Like you're doing everything like Amazon, like, from A to Z, literally. And I like that mentality. It kind of reminds me of like Jeff Bezos himself. It's like, it's always day one, right? Always day one.
It's always day one. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Just like Amazon itself, they didn't make any money for, X amount of years, right? Like, and he still had like the enthusiasm.
Oh yeah. No, listen, it really depends on the brand, on the business, right? Right now we actually are in a situation with one of our clients where it's an old company. I believe they're older than I am. But when I came to them, right, we look at their situation and I see so much potential. There's so much potential that can be done. And they are such a great brand. And, I came to them and this was one of the very, very few moments where
you actually came to them instead of them coming to you.
Yes, so, we met live. A lot of our relationships are happening in the real world, not just the online space. But I came to them and said, look at these numbers, look at these analysis, because we audited all of their accounts. And after multiple conversations, I said, look, we can add $1 million to this revenue. And they were doing about not revenue, I was talking about profit, but they were doing about $4 to $5 million in revenue annually. And a year and a half later, we literally added an additional $1 million in profit for that company. But it was a year and a half, right? And still, that being said, our main operative from the brand side was maintaining the profitability at 35%. Amazon profitability. This is not including agency fees, employee fees. It's just, you got your landed cost of goods, you got your Amazon fees, et cetera, et cetera. But this was their directive because they were looking at Amazon as a distributor, and they have multiple distributors. It's a multi-8-figure company outside of Amazon, and Amazon just a small, tiny part. So they're looking at that channel as a distributor, and their main priorities, we want to grow, of course, but there is a cap. So we are very limited in how much we can push and pull and experiment and how much we can advertise on top of the funnel. Now, because of that success, and their narrative makes sense, right, in light, because of the success on Amazon, because of the success of the company, they have just been acquired by a major company that is entering the US market. And we're not talking about just Amazon. Their entire company was acquired. And the new company is coming in, right? It's a corporate enterprise level, not Mattel, but I wouldn't say very far off. And their directive is, we need to grow. We want to grow. We have capital. We want to massively invest in the top of the funnel. We want to massively invest into DSP. We want to make sure that this brand, expands worldwide. And then now the
Yeah.
directive changes from us focusing on profitability to us focusing on the market share, to us focusing on going after those outlier keywords, after going after those unique audiences. So it really, really depends, not necessarily on the brand itself, but on what the founders or what the shareholders of the company really want to achieve and what their goals are. Because sometimes the goal is market share and we want to expand until we get big enough to generate profit. But sometimes it is generate profit today and in light of potentially selling the business or potentially just living a good life with a decent amount of money in the pocket.
Yeah, and just peaceful and everything. So I know you saw the potential on this brand, right? Like, if someone like you see a brand and other things as well all the time, what does potential look like? I know you said you ran some audits and stuff. Maybe you can just give us like a couple things that like lights up in your heads. Like you look at their overall brands, like where you can see improvement immediately. Like what are some of those things?
Well, listen, there are so many numerous factors. Now, of course, there are sometimes glaring issues and glaring holes.
Yeah, I
in
guess
their
that's,
case,
that's what I.
exactly. So usually the way you can recognize a real world brand on Amazon, right, or an older company on Amazon is that their infographics are not really infographics. They just have website Shopify style pictures, right, uploaded there. They have very basic A+ content, and in most cases not a premium A+ content. They're not running any promotions, they're not running any deals. Their pricing is somewhat stable except one or two distributors coming in and stealing their buy box. Their advertising is usually focused a lot on the branded terms rather than expansion and looking outwards. So it's a lot of the more older companies that are selling on Amazon, they're just selling on Amazon and they're selling to their own audience. So when you see those things, it's quite clear when you start looking at the keywords that they should be on, but they're not because they've never really invested in those areas of Amazon. It's not easy, but you can measure the potential success that can be achieved just based on the thousands of keywords that you're able to pull from Amazon and looking, where this particular product can be placed. But, there are companies where, when we speak with those companies and they come to us to say, hey, we're interested in expanding our expertise. We're interested in, hiring someone like you. Can you tell us what we're doing wrong, right? And how we can improve? And then, we come in and we audit everything. And it's like, well, hey guys, your internal team is doing a terrific job. Like unless you want to replace your internal team and bring us in, there's no point in collaborating on this point because your content is on point, your strategy is on point, right? Your P&L is doing well, your funnel is filled. So usually, rarely, there are situations and accounts that are just amazing. But really, it's not very often.
Always room for improvement. Like that's the argument. Like, can't you always improve everything? Or even a little bit, right? Or is it not significant enough for you to?
No, listen, we always give the tips, right? But it's if the tip can increase your revenue, right, by 2%, it's 2%, right? But when you're bringing on board a growth agency that's focused on growth, we're not satisfied with a couple percent yearly growth. Like it's just inflation. We're looking for 30, 40, 50% depending on the brand. So when you when you talk with a company like Gel Blaster, right? Do you remember those? It's not like airsoft, but it's basically blasting jellies. It's a great they have an amazing internal Amazon team, incredible team, and any topic we broach, they're either working on it and actively working on it, or they already are covering it. And we look at their account, we look at the things that they're doing, and it's amazing, right? So you do have companies that just have almost everything handled, but then you have companies that are more old-fashioned and they don't really want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to build, and the time needed and the expertise needed and the resources needed to build that internal team, because in a lot of cases, the best people, they're either running their own agencies or they're working in those agencies. And when you have a person that's full-time working on just your brand or just your account, they're not seeing the dozens or hundreds of other issues and cases and situations that are happening with other companies and brands. But if we go back to auditing, there's a very simple trick, or not a trick specifically, but a very simple thing that I look for to understand whether the company or the agency that's managing that account or the brand truly goes deep into Amazon or not.
Yeah.
You want me to tell you what it is?
Yeah. If you can even, do a screen share with it, we'd love to take a look at it and learn along.
All right. So let me quickly check one thing. We're on Amazon. We have a lot of the Helium 10 and all the other tools on here, but a simple trick that I do to just test, right? We scroll down and we'll look at the brand story, right? Find your stride and feel alive. This is, by the way, just a random treadmill that I pulled up on Amazon, right? We have the premium A+ content, right? So it's not just normal A+ content, it's premium A+ content. You see everything's connected. It's all nice and well. Now, what if I don't speak English? What happens then? Right? What happens then if I'm one of the 40 million Americans who don't speak English? Find your stride and feel alive. What does that mean? I don't know what that means, right? 3-in-1 treadmills with incline, right? This is all in English, but I'm a Spanish speaker. It's difficult for me to understand English, right? Yeah. But it's all in English, except obviously the text that Amazon has is translated. Oh, now it's translated by my Google Translate to English text again. But Amazon translates the title. It translates I guess not in this case, not even the title, but it translates the bullet points. But Amazon does translate the title. In this case, I don't know what this brand is doing, but it's definitely not managing their Amazon correctly. Now, you cannot translate your main images, but the additional selling happens in your brand story, happens in your A+ content. And these are the things that can be translated to Spanish and Hebrew in the United States. And in Germany, it's like 7 languages total that you can upload your A+ content to. So we're looking at a listing where I'm a Spanish speaker, which out of 300 million Americans, there are 40 million Spanish speakers. And I'm searching Amazon in Spanish. And I come to your listing and I don't see a Spanish A+ content. Now, do I expect to see a Spanish A+ content? Well, probably no, because I'm, in America and people just don't speak Spanish that much. However, we have launched, I would say, over a dozen products targeting Spanish-speaking terms. Like we're targeting Spanish keywords, and we rank there quite easily because we obviously have it in our backend, and we have obviously the A+ content translated to Spanish language. Now, we should also translate it to Hebrew language, but I cannot select it because my account is not Hebrew. So. We're essentially like a very easy test for us to do is to look at the translation. Is it done or not? And the best brands have it figured out. They go in deep and they fix those things and they get those things done. Majority of them, they don't. Now, I will admit there are some brands that we are managing that don't have this done. It's sometimes a challenge to convince the brand owners that this is important, but in majority of cases, the team is working on those things. But in order for you to translate your A+ content to Spanish and Hebrew, you open up Claude or you open up ChatGPT, you translate, and you just depending how you created the content, your designer can just change the words. It's not like it requires a significant amount of human resources. But now you're converting the 40 million Spanish speakers better than you were before. So this is a very, very simple trick and test that we do during our auditing process or before even going to speak with the brand or approaching them, or going to their office to speak with them and say, look, your A+ content is not even translated. Are your how confident are you that there are not more things missing? And when you go into the account, we see it. Absolutely, there are more things missing, right? The promotions are not utilized correctly. They're not trying out and testing out and running best deals, even though they could. They don't have a crossed out price. They, they don't participate in Black Friday sometimes. Rare, but it happens. But if we want to grow the brand, for example, like we've grown a toy that we started with like 2020. We grown a toy from $50,000 a month to $30 million a year.
Oh my goodness!
It's one toy. It's one toy. Before we came in, it was a no-name company. Yeah. Now they were known in the toys industry somewhat because it was quite a new thing. But we came in and it was 3 years until we got to 30 million a year. But for 6 years in a row, since 2020, right? We started working with them in 2020, June 1st. Since 2020, 6 years in a row, every December, that toy hit #1 toy on Amazon.com.
Wow.
#1 toy. 6 years in a row, every December, every single December.
Yeah, that trajectory is going to be a household name. That's incredible.
I mean, like we've generated billions of impressions, of course, but the way to get to there is doing everything.
And trust me, it's not
just everything. Now, like we can't take all the credit, right? They have a great product, but that product, it wasn't invented by the company that we work with. It was invented in Europe, and the inventor, they launched their own brand, and it failed miserably. It didn't work out until our client, a U.S. toy company, they bought that brand. They bought the patent, and they hired us to grow them on Amazon. And trust me, we tested every single tool you can because we're looking at one variation, like 1-2 variations to get to 30 million a year. It's not hundreds of products. No, it's one product, right? We've run top deals. We were featured several times on national television. Because we were literally on the top of Amazon. We were featured on Amazon's first page. So Amazon.com first page, from incognito for different areas, you see our product like 3 or 4 times. We had a day where we sold $1.2 million. The first day we hit $1 million a day was a lightning deal. Not even Cyber Monday. Now we do hit $1 million days in Cyber Monday, but our first $1 million day, I believe this was in 2021 maybe, or 2022. I don't really recall, but it was somewhere in December, a normal lightning deal. But there are strategies how you successfully get traffic from the lightning deals. Because, for example, now if you don't mind, now I might go a little bit of on a tangent about the deals because I'm very passionate about this topic because it's so underutilized and I see so many sellers not truly understanding what they're doing and what they're trying to gain when they utilize different types of deals. So, for example, a lightning deal is the 12-hour limited time deal, right? We all see in the numbers on Amazon, it's the red badge, it increases our conversion and whatnot. But the main purpose of that deal is not to increase your ranking. It's not to grow your audience significantly. Its main purpose is to get additional traffic from Amazon Deals page. So we already need a product that is moderately successful in its main category, right? Toys and games, industrial and scientific, desks and workstations, right? In the main category, to have enough of its own relative volume, daily volume, sales volume, to when we launch a lightning deal, from our normal sales, we are generating enough demand to increase our claim rate, the claim of the deal of the limited amount of products that you set for the lightning deal. So that percentage ticks up faster than other products running deals at the same time. And we start ranking organically in the deals page. And the deals page is the second most visited page on Amazon after Amazon.com, right? The Amazon.com/deals, this is the second most visited page. And people there, they're browsing. They're looking for a product that
Good deal.
they're looking for a good deal. Absolutely. But they're broad. They don't know what they want, right? So you're looking at top of the funnel awareness, like, as much as it comes. But if you're managed to rank on the first scroll, or, the first window, because right now there's no pages. Before it was like pages. But we used to say on the first page, but like it's the first 40 or 24 products. If you rank on the first sort of segment of the screen, in your category, right, toys and games, I might be looking for a toy for my kid. I go like, hey, let's see what we can buy, because I don't know, like, I'm a man, I'm not looking into toys too much. I just go on Amazon deals, like, hey, let's find a good deal, and I'll go to toys and games, and I see your product, and I buy your product, right? So the amount of traffic that we get from lightning deals is significant, and we run lightning deals almost every single week. So during a lightning deal, we sometimes see our sales double, sometimes see triple, sometimes quadruple. And it's also finding a balance between how much units you actually sell and how many units you want to allocate for the deal. But the main purpose of the deal is to bring additional traffic from the deals page, not to increase your ranking, because it's not enough time to do that. However, when our goal changes from bringing in the additional top of the funnel awareness audience, which we then retarget with DSP and all the other AMC stuff, we are running best deals, right? Best deals. This is the best tool to run during Amazon Prime holidays and then Black Friday, Cyber Monday, T12. But normally you can run a best deal usually for 2 weeks. Run it, for less, but if you run it for 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, your conversion significantly increases. Your click-through rate significantly increases. And our main goal is organic ranking growth. So we are increasing our ad spend on the ranking campaigns, on the top of search campaigns. We increase our ad spend in the keywords that we are actively trying to rank on. And during those 2 weeks, we are actively ranking better and higher than our competition, because we have better metrics than them, right? Our click-through rate is better, our add-to-cart rate is better, our conversion rate is better. All the metrics usually are better. Now, the challenge is to stay ranked higher after the deal ends. But if your offer is good enough for the page, right, then you end up ranking higher after the deals. So we use best deals for ranking purposes and lightning deals for increasing our top of funnel, adding additional traffic to our entire audience. This is just the tip of the iceberg. But I think the viewers might find it interesting.
No, it is. I mean, these are like advanced things that, like what you guys provide, right? Like,
Well, I mean, like we build an entire deal strategy, right, for the product, because every single product is different. For product Y, it might be best to just run lightning deals. For product X, lightning deals make no sense. It's a waste of money. There are like part of the deal strategy in a lot of cases. You want to be running a crossed out reference price with a crossed out list price at a higher rate, so you get a better percentage look on the deal itself. Or, for example, you might be running constant promotions. And I'm not talking about discounting. I'm talking about Amazon's tool promotions, when you go to advertising promotions, etc. And you offer a discount, buy 3, get 10% off, which ends up creating a unique page, right? So under your price, the customers might press, right, see the offer or look for more products, and they get into this beautiful, beautiful page which only has your listings and no competition. So you're essentially funneling the traffic to a magical place where there's zero advertising happening. And they can add to cart directly from that page. And it's great for upselling. It's great for increasing the cart size. And I see very few brands actually utilizing this. Because like if you do the math in a lot of cases, if our tacos is 10%, right? Sorry. If our tacos is 10%, that means that we can afford to pay 10% from the sale, sometimes more.
Mm-hmm.
And we already pay the 10% to get the customer in, to buy the one product, one unit. And they just end up buying one unit, right? Well, that's great. No, we still need some money. We still need profit. But if we get them at 10% and we tell them, hey, look, here's 10%. If you buy this, and this, right? Our tacos ends up being maybe 12%. but we now sold a significantly larger amount of units,
Yeah.
significantly larger amount of revenue. Now we still had to pay FBA fees and referral fees and whatnot, but in our P&L, our dollar margin has increased.
Yeah, it's kind of reminds me of like Costco. You know, that's why they always have like the dollar hot dog or the dollar pizza, right? Just to get
Yeah.
people in, because most likely once they're there, they're gonna shop. You know,
We're gonna shop, exactly. Like
So,
the goal of the full funnel strategy is to bring people in.
yeah.
In a minute. Well, I hope you can edit this part out.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that'll do it. Take your time.
A little bit dry here. But exactly, right? The goal of the entire full funnel strategy is that once you get people in, you want to maximize what you can, which means you want to properly retarget them, which means you want to offer them targeted promotions, you want to offer them targeted discounts. For example, even Amazon's brand tailored promotions, or I mean, now they moved it into the coupons part, but you can run coupons for cart abandoners, which means that if you're looking at your brand analytics and you're monitoring your funnel stages, like what we do on in some cases weekly basis, depending on experiments we're running, in most cases monthly phases, we're monitoring the cart abandonment rates. What this means is that when we run on a more aggressive cart abandoners coupon, our cart abandonment rate decreases, and we essentially just make more money. So, but in some cases we don't. In some cases we do. In some cases we have to precisely calculate the percentage and find the balance between what works and what doesn't. So it's a lot goes behind the scenes, right? When you're working on your, what we say, deal strategy, because it's not just liking deals and best deals. It's all the promotions, all the coupons, all the variable things that you're doing alongside your advertising. Because if you only work, right, with a few virtual assistants, you have an advertising agency who in most cases, believe it or not, usually doesn't even have access to your P&L. So they don't even know if they're profitable or not. You're just giving them, a tacos target. And that's who they operate. Like the horses in the races, they don't see anything else. Yes, they're focused on running the PPC and they might, do a great job to get, to that tacos that you specify. But it's very difficult for a PPC agency without fully being able to monitor and measure what you're doing with the other aspects that Amazon provides you, right? With the coupons, with the deals, with brand promotions, like everything has to tie beautifully together. And well, I mean, this is essentially what we do, right? This is essentially what we believe a full service Amazon account management agency should be and is doing, is tying all of those pieces of Amazon strategy together into one thing that, right, can get your product to the best sellers of toys and games. We have actually done this multiple times, like with other products. Like we got to we have a stand-up desk brand that in Germany we got from 100K a month to $1 million a month in 10 months. So we got them to €1 million a month in revenue. We got them to be the number one desk in desks and workstations category. But this is a stand-up desk that costs $500. And we're competing, like in the BSR, we're competing against, the IKEA level, cheap 30, 40, 50, $100 desks.
Yeah.
So we got them to the best sellers of the entire desks category. But that's, besides the point.
So running all these deals that you just had kind of talked about stuff. This is assuming like everything else is like, locked in, all the different components, like the images, the copywriting, the A+ content and stuff like that. So before you even do all that stuff, running the deals, you want to make sure that's all good. Just based from your experience, what is mostly the most common thing that, or the one thing that if you can just change one of those components can increase tons of conversions? And I know
It's a
it can
difficult,
vary.
yeah. It's a difficult question because
Like from what you see, like
yeah,
yeah,
because to only pick one is quite difficult, right? Because in reality, we want to make sure that the entire listing fits together, right? You have the appropriate infographics. In a lot of cases, what we find that is missing is a video. Some products make zero difference,
yeah,
absolutely no difference whether we have the video or not. But there are products and a lot of products that do require some explanation. And customers sometimes they are too lazy to read. They don't want to look at the listing. They want to just see the video, what the product is about, and buy it. And sometimes when we just add the video, we see our conversion increase like 15%. In certain cases, right? A disclaimer.
even
But
sometimes the video can help convert someone that's Spanish speaking, right? Because if it's just like a commercial, for example, it might be universal. I don't know. You tell me.
if we try to actually create videos that are more universal, so we don't have to have different voiceovers for right the U.S. market, German market, Spanish market, right? Italian, etc., Japanese market. So you are actually correct. You are correct. Maybe this is one of the reasons. Like you have the foreign speakers that don't really speak English that very well. They look at the video and it's universal. But we want to have the entire listing story flow, right? You want their in the infographics. You don't want to have them just individual things, right? You need to tell that one story. You need to try to imagine from the customer's perspective how they read your listing. They go from top to bottom. What they're feeling, what their goals are. Sorry. What their goals are. What is the reason why they're on your listing in the first place? And now there are the details, the technical things, like for example, the premium A+ content, like it converts significantly better than normal A+ content. But we find that we need the listing to be fully ready before we even consider ramping up the advertising. Because if you have a leaky bucket, it just spills from all the holes in the bucket. No matter how much water you pour into that bucket, it's still going to be empty eventually in the end of the day. So you really don't want to have that situation where your Amazon listing is leaking. You don't want to have a situation where your conversion is worse than than the market average, right? You want to consistently go into the SQP reports and look at individual keywords that you're focusing on, and look at the market click-through rate and your click-through rate. Compare your conversion rate to market's conversion rate. And I do find that I would say 98% of sellers are not doing this. They're not monitoring their metrics compared to the market averages. Some sellers, most sellers, I would say they might not even know this is even a possibility. But when we look at improving the listing itself, we always measure against the market. And a very important part, we don't just measure against the market. We try to target specific audiences in the market. A very, very easy example. Let's see what I have on my desk. Let's say you're selling a fidget toy. All right, so it's a big category. You're selling a fidget toy. All right, I remember there's a Schilling's ice cube, for example. Let's say you have different categories of keywords. You have fidget toys for kids. You have fidget toys for adults. You have fidget toys for teens or teenagers. And your listing is universal. So it's targeting everyone, right? Yeah. My toy, it's for adults, it's for kids, it's for teens, it's for everybody. Anybody who wants it, buy it. Imagine what the conversion rate would be if all of the copy, the visuals, would be for a fidget toy for adults, right? You have the fidget toy that you're playing in meetings. You have a fidget toy that you're playing, in a train as an adult. You have the fidget toy that's just sitting on your desk, right? To show that this is for the office, that has good aesthetics, maybe some functional use, and it has keywords specifically for adults. Now, in those cases, because it's adults, you have to make sure that you're not targeted as a adult product, which is more sexual wellness products. No, it's a real problem with Amazon sometimes. It's not as often these days as it was a couple years ago, but we still have to make sure that Amazon doesn't flag that. But the conversion rate in the fidget toys for adults for that variation or for that product is going to be significantly better than the conversion rate for a product that's universal or mainly showing kids, right? So when we are building the listing, it's not just building the listing. It's creating an entire brand strategy for choosing which products, which variations, which designs, fit into which specific target audience, if there even is one. Because if you're selling a tortilla press, this was a product that I launched with the company like many years ago. It's a great product. It was a great niche at the time. No longer so because it's saturated. But a tortilla press, no one is searching it for adults, for kids, for children. Like it just is what it is. But then you have categories where the audiences segment themselves into who is the end user of that product. And if you're able to identify those things in advance, when building your product or when building the listing deck, right? When building your copy, then you clearly answer who this product is for. And it goes beyond the visuals. It goes beyond, updating your A+ from, normal to A+ to premium A+. It goes beyond, just adding a brand story to increase conversion. No, it goes into the root cause of your underperforming conversion rate compared to your competition. So we really want to identify exactly where we're lacking and where we're strong, because there are keywords where, our conversion rate and sometimes click-through rate, sometimes one of the others is significantly higher than the competitors, than the market average for that specific keyword. And then we double down on those keywords or we change something about it. So we have to track a lot of the data. So to answer your question, I don't know if there is one thing that you can change in the listing to increase the conversion significantly. It's a lot of other things, and it really depends on the product itself. Like what is actually missing. In some cases, updating the A+ content is what needed. In some cases, it's the video. In some cases, translating into Spanish to attract the Spanish-speaking audience. In a lot of cases, we have to dig deep to the keyword level and look at what we're doing with the advertising, because your top of search campaigns, sponsored product campaigns, they have significantly better click-through rate than your organic rankings or your mid-funnel or your mid-page campaigns. They have significantly higher click-through rate. They have significantly higher conversion rates. So these things also go in tandem. So when we have a winning keyword by one of those metrics, we double down on it with advertising. So what I was talking about in the beginning, that you can't have. Oh, well, of course you can. In business, there are many ways to make money, but you can't have just different aspects of the business being managed by like separate companies even sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You usually need someone who's combining all of it together and connecting those dots. Because if your advertising agency is not looking at keyword level SQP reports and keyword level conversion and click-through rate, not just in advertising, but on the organic plus advertising compared to the market, like you are missing out. You're losing against your competitors who might be doing that, and they might be doubling down on those things. So it's about the identification of the things that you really need to improve on and change. That was a long rant.
No, that completely makes sense. And the one point you talked about is just like, you have the Amazon algorithm, for example, like specific target audience, but once they actually land into that certain listings, he even talks to them more. He could be like using their actual language, for example, right? So like really tailored to them. It's not just like a generic thing where it was like, in the past. And I actually kind of want to end on this note here where, every talk of the town now is AI, right? Like,
oh yeah,
Claude here, GPT here. Do you see the new Gemini, so on and so forth? So where do you see AI affecting like even what you do or just Amazon in general in the next few years? And what can we do to kind of like, stay on top of it and still being relevant? Because, I guess some of it as we talked about earlier, like the image can be quickly done, translated with AI now. So what other usage you might see, even yourself, your company, taking advantage of it?
I will get some water. I would think the biggest leverage or the biggest lever that brands and agencies like us have is adapting our listing to the Amazon's Cosmo. This is the contextual targeting AI, essentially. Like, so, do you know Rufus? Like Amazon Rufus, the customer facing AI. So Cosmo is the engine behind Rufus, essentially. And that engine is what is helping the A9 keyword based algorithm rank our products based on the person that's searching for the specific keyword. So what we do is, because Amazon gives us a lot of the information and data and the white papers about the way Cosmo exactly works. And for example, Cosmo doesn't understand or doesn't read images. It's purely text-based. However, Amazon uses other tools to put your images into text and the context behind those images into text, feed that to the Cosmo. And based on 15 questions that the Cosmo algorithm is targeting, and Amazon gives us the 15 questions. This is not a secret. Based on those 15 questions, who is this product for, where it can be used, and so on and so forth. We're then able to answer those specifically for the context, right? For the contextual algorithm. And where we specifically as AMZBs use AI, like we build our own internal AI tools to audit the listings. So we input the listing into the tool, and we programmed it based on the information Amazon gives us about their Cosmo targeting. The questions, how those questions have to be answered, how the images have to be read specifically to answer those questions. And we get a very detailed analysis for every single question, where we answered it, how we answered it, and then we can identify whether we answered it correctly or not. We can then get an answer, do we have any contradictions? Because this is a very important part. If you have contradictions, Amazon's Cosmo is not going to take any of the things you said into account. You might say this product is for kids age 9, and then you say this product is for kids age 14. That means they're not going to look at any of them. They're going to just ignore it. So where we are using AI is to essentially help us rank better, is to identify the areas that our listings are lacking based on the Cosmo algorithm. Now, we still have to work with the keyword-based algorithm and still have the exact match phrases where we want them to be, but we have to write the listings more for humans, but it's AI that now reads more like a human rather than an algorithm that just reads keywords. So no more keyword stuffing, no more, just adding phrases for the sake of adding phrases, which it worked really well in the past, right? You have your description field and you just add 2,000 bytes worth of exact match phrases, which you just index for, and it's great. And you're ranking on those phrases, your advertising is cheaper. Not anymore. Now you input too much data in there and the algorithm is confused. So now it makes more sense, even if your description is not visible and it's behind your A+ content, Cosmo still reads it. Amazon's algorithm still reads it. And now it makes more sense to write a full in-depth description based on the answers to the questions for Cosmo, right? Based on the things that you want to translate to Amazon. And then when you have a person that's looking at everything dogs, right? They're looking for dog food, they're looking for dog toys, they're looking for anything and everything, dog collars for dogs. And then they type in brushes, right? Or animal brushes. They don't specify that it's for a dog. Or a type of brush. You would be surprised. Amazon will show them significantly more brushes tailored for dogs than for cats. And why is that? Because technically, if they just search brushes, it should be the same no matter what person searches. But it's more about now the actual customer that is going through the Amazon search results and going through Amazon's funnel, and Amazon is tailoring their search results based on the person that is searching, trying to match what that person is searching for. And I believe this has been quite successful on Amazon's part so far. And we're trying to adapt to it as quickly as possible. We're trying to adapt to it as quickly as possible. And with the help of AI, we can do that a lot more precisely than just having a human or a designer or a strategist or a brand builder sit behind the listing and try to identify, did we really answer this particular question, or how did we answer? Now we have a tool that, it's not that instant. It still takes some time and uses credits and whatnot, but identify areas where we need to improve. And it doesn't even have, a score or wellness score of how well you do. It's all about the context. It's all about diving really deep into what is currently built and what you're trying to improve and what you're trying to make the listing be and where to rank. So, it goes into the brand building strategy. It goes into the entire the brand vision, where while creating the listings, the copy, the infographics, the entire deck of the listing, we now have to keep in mind the Cosmo algorithm and the AI world that we live in. And I think this is one of the currently most powerful ways to help sellers from our end, to help the brands that we work with. Now, of course, you have AI assistants that can help with advertising and tools, and we don't use AI for that, but we automate all the account health checkups. So every morning for every single account, we see everything in one place. All the account health critical issues, we automatically create tasks internally for ourselves to check those things. So there are things that you can automate. There are things that you can, utilize AI for, but it's either, basic things, images, copywriting, data gathering or data entry, or translating the listings. And what we try to use it for is to identify the key areas that Amazon's algorithm thinks we should improve on.
No, that completely makes sense. And the way you describe Cosmo is if you do figure it out, it's it's just going to be in your advantage, which is pretty sweet.
we find that amongst our clients, competitors, what the listings that we see in the spaces that we're in, very rarely they rank better than us on the Cosmo sort of areas. We aim to answer every single question, and this is very new. This is not something that's been for 2 years. No, this is something that's changing in the past months. So it's still quite early, even in our stage, where we don't have all the clients updated for it yet. There's still a massive amount of graphical resources required to update this. There are some products that you cannot really use AI. There are still some precision elements or design elements that it just doesn't really work. So you still have to rely on the old-fashioned human resources to get those things done. But it's I think it's just a matter of time, before the real winners who are going to be winners on Amazon in the next couple of years, before they figure these things out, and they are going to be the ones who are winning because they figured how Amazon ranking actually works, in this day and age. Because it's definitely a different world and a different playing field than it was, 5 years ago or even 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, things are always changing. That's always a given, with Amazon, it's just you have to stay on top in order to, get the results that you want.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much.
It's a tough competition.
Yeah, it is, and again, it's the ones that survives the top stays on top because they're doing the work, staying ahead and things like that. So yeah, Klaidas, we really appreciate your time here, sharing your expertise, the wealth of knowledge, even the tips and tricks there that someone, can implement after watching this video. So really appreciate it. And, if someone wants to work with you, get in contact with you, where can they find you?
Well, if you want to get in contact with me personally, just go to LinkedIn. This is where I normally hang out, and you can just drop me a message, drop me a follow or connection request, and let's connect there. If you want to try out for the agency, if you want to apply to become one of our partners, just go to our website, www.amzbees.com, fill in the application form, and our team is going to audit your account. We're going to provide a complimentary strategy session. We're going to look into areas that we believe your brand could improve on, and see where it takes us.
Awesome. Thank you, Klaidas.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.